For this video, we'll be doing lesson 5-3, where we're adding and subtracting fractions. The first thing to remember, so we're going to write this at the top of the page, is that when you're adding and subtracting fractions, the denominator must be the same. Okay, so put that at the top of the page because you have to remember that. When you're adding and subtracting fractions, the denominator of both fractions has to be the same in order for you to combine them. Okay, so this first one says, find each sum or difference, simplify if possible. So we have 4 over 9 plus 2 over 9. They have the same denominator, right? So you're just going to rewrite it as a fraction over that same denominator, because that shows that you're just having 4 plus 2, and then over the 9. 4 plus 2 is 6, so you end up with 6 over 9. We need to simplify this, so we can divide the top and the bottom by 3, and we end up with 2 over 3. Same thing if it has a variable on the bottom. We have 12 over b minus 5 over b. We can rewrite that as 12 minus 5, all of that over b. 12 minus 5 is 7. 7 over b we can't simplify because there's a variable on the bottom. So if they already have the same denominator, then it's really easy to combine them. When they don't have the same denominator, you're going to have to change them so that they do have the same denominator and you can work with them. So if we have 1 over 6 minus 3 over 4, the smallest, easiest thing that we could make them both have would be 12. But another trick, if you don't just off the top of your head know what the smallest thing would be, then you can just use the opposite denominator. So if I have 1 over 6 minus 3 over 4, and I times this side top and bottom by 4, and this side top and bottom by 6, so I took the denominator of the opposite one, I'm going to end up with 4 over 24 minus 18 over 24. So by having 4 times 6 and 6 times 4, right, on the bottoms here, we ended up with 24 on both bottoms. So that ends up being 4 minus 18 all over 24. They write that a little differently. So they have like 1 over 6 and 3 over 4 times 6 times 4. And it looks kind of weird. So Miss Keel prefers to write it like this. So you can write it either way, but they mean the same thing. Then you end up with 4 minus 18 over 24. That's going to be negative 14 over 24. Divide the top and bottom by 2, and you end up with negative 7 over 12 as your answer. Okay, if it's one where you know what it's going to be and you know you can make it into like a 12, we could have done 1 over 6 minus 3 over 4 and just been like times 2 and times 3, because we know that's going to give us 2 over 12 minus 9 over 12, which is going to give us 2 minus 9 over 12, which is also negative 7 over 12. Okay, so either way that you do that, you're going to end up with the same answer. So you can either use the opposite denominator and end up and then just have to simplify, or if you know what you can turn both denominators into, you can do that as well. When they have a variable, like 2 over y minus 5 over 16, you're going to have a 16y on the bottom, right? So the easiest way to do that is going to be that opposite denominator thing, 5 over 16. So if we times this by 16 on top and bottom, and this by y on top and bottom, you end up with, 32 over 16y minus 5y over 16y. So you can rewrite that as 32 minus 5y, all of that over 16y. okay? And you can't do anything because remember you can only combine like terms. So 32 and 5y cannot be combined, and they all go over 16y. Okay, let's do the quick check here. So 3 plus 3 over 7 plus 1 over 7. It's really 3 plus 1 over 7, which is really 4 over 7, and then we're done. Okay, so go ahead and try B and C on your own. Pause your video, and then we will come back and check them together. So for this one, we have 2 plus 3 over k, which is really just 5 over k. That's our answer. For this one, we have 11 plus negative 5, all of that over y. So you end up with 6 over y. Remember, because 11 plus negative 5 is going to get you a positive 6. When you're ready, go ahead and flip your paper over, and we'll work on the back. So on the back, we're going to be using mixed numbers. So it's important to remember how to change between mixed numbers and fractions, okay, because you'll want to use fractions when you're doing your work. So how to change mixed numbers. Excuse me. Two mixed numbers. So 1 denominator, oh no, from mixed numbers. Whoops. From mixed numbers. Denominator times the whole number is step 1. Step 2, add the numerator to what you just got. And then step 3, just write that answer. So write it over the original denominator. So if I have, let's say, 5 2/3, denominator times the whole number. So I do 3 times 5, which is 15. Then I add the numerator. So 15 plus 2 is 17. And then I write that all over the original denominator, which is 3. So 17 over 3 is the same as 5 2/3. Okay, that's when you're going from a mixed number to a fraction. When you're going from a fraction back to a mixed number, you're going to do top divided by bottom and keep the whole number. And then you're going to be like, okay, well, how many more do I need? And that's the top. So let's do 14 over 3. So if we do 14 over 3, 14 divided by 3. 3 goes into 14 4 times because we get to 12, right? 3 times 4 is going to get us 12. So the whole number is going to be 4. If we only get to 12, but we need to get to 14, then that means that there's 2 left, and that goes over the original denominator. So top divided by the bottom, the whole number was 4. 4 times 3 was 12, so we know we needed 2 more to get to 14, so we have 2 over 3. Okay, so that's just going to help you because on this, you're going to have to go back and forth between the two. So keep those handy so that you can remember how. All right, so it says, suppose one day you rode a bicycle for 3.5 hours and jogged for an hour and for 1 1/4 hours. How many hours did you exercise? So first step is going to be turning those into fractions so that we can do our math with them. So 3.5. So we have 2 times 3, which is 6. We add 1, which is 7. So the first one is 7 over 2. 3.5 is the same as 7 over 2. Then we have 1 1/4. So we do 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and we write 5 over 4. Okay, now we need to have the same things on the bottom. So we're going to have 7 over 2 plus 5 over 4, but we need to have both of them over 4 or both of them over 8, whichever you're going to choose to do. They have you do the opposite rule again, so we're going to do times 2 times 2 times 4 times 4. So 7 times 4 is going to give us 28 over 8, and then 5 times 2 is going to give us 10 over 8. So we end up with 28 plus 10 all over 8, which is really the same as 38 over 8. We're going to simplify before we write it as a mixed number. So if you divide the top and the bottom by 2, you get 38 divided by 2, which is 19 over 4. Okay, so 4 goes into 19 how many times? Because now we're going to turn this into a mixed number. So if I did 4 times 4, I would get 16. So that's going to be my whole number, is 4, not 16. And then based on the 16, I know I have 3 more to get to 19. So I have 4 3/4. Okay, so we simplified to 19 over 4, and then we turned it into a mixed number. It's easier if you simplify first and then make your mixed number. All right, let's look at the quick checks. So 2 over 3 minus 1 over 5. On your homework, they're going to be written like this, because remember when Miss Keel types it, the fractions end up looking like that. So first step is going to be always to rewrite the problem in fraction form, where you write it top and bottom, so like this. Okay, now we're going to have to make them have the same thing on the bottom. So if I do times 5 times 5 times 3 times 3, I end up with 10 over 15 minus 3 over 15, just 10 minus 3 over 15, which is 7 over 15. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video and try B and C on your own, and then we'll come back together and check them. All right, so for B, first step was rewrite negative 7 over 8 plus 3 over 4. Let's just make them both be over 8 this time, so we're going to say times 2 times 2, and we're going to leave the other one alone, so we have negative 7 over 8 plus 6 over 8, which is really negative 7 plus 6 over 8, which is really just negative 1 over 8. And then for the last one, we have 3 over 7 minus 2 over m. So we're going to do times m times m times 7 times 7. So they both end up with 7m on the bottom. So you're going to have 3m over 7m minus 14 over 7m. So you're going to have 3m minus 14 over 7m, and that's as far as you can go, because you can't combine 3m minus 14 because one of them has a variable attached and the other does not. All right, these next ones, you got to turn them into fractions, and then you got to make them have the same denominator, and then you can go from there. So 5 3/4. Okay, so we have 4 times 5, which is 20, plus 3, which is 23. So we end up with, we can rewrite it as 23 over 4, plus 7 over 8. I'm going to make them both have an 8 on the bottom, so I'm just going to say times 2 times 2, because that's an easy one to see what the bottom should be. So this becomes 46 over 8 plus 7 over 8. 46 plus 7 over 8, which is really 53 over 8. And now I've got to turn that back into a mixed number. When I divide 53 by 8, I get 6 as my whole number. And then I still have 6 times 8 is 48, so I still have 5 left over. So I end up with 6 and 5 over 8 as my final answer. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video and you can work on E and F on your own, and then we'll come back together and check them. All right, so 5 2/3. So we have 3 times 5, which is 15, plus 2 is 17. So this is 17 over 3 minus, and we had 6 times 3, which is 18, plus 1, which is 19 over 6. We could make them both be over 6 if we just did times 2 times 2. And we would end up with 34 over 6 minus 19 over 6 equals 34 minus 19 all over 6, which is really 15 over 6. We could divide this by 3 and get 5 over 2. And then we're going to turn that into a mixed number. 5 divided by 2, you can get 4, right? 2 times 4 is, or what am I doing? You can get 2, sorry, because 2 times 2 is 4. And then you have 1 left over, so you have 2 and 1/2 is the same as 5 over 2. Okay, for this last one, we have 2 and 3 over 8. So 8 times 2 is 16, plus 3 is 19 over 8, plus 7 over 8. They already have the same denominator, so this is really 19 plus 7 over 8, which is really 26 over 8. We can divide top and bottom of that by 2 and get 13 over 4. 4 goes into 13 3 times, because 3 times 4 is 12. And we have 1 left over, so we get 3 and 1/4. Okay, for this last one, a recipe for punch calls for 1 1/2 quarts of orange juice, 1 1/4 quarts of ginger ale, and 3 over 4 quarts of cranberry juice. How many quarts of punch will the recipe make? So we're just adding all of those together. So we have 1 and 1/2 plus 1 and 1/4 plus 3 over 4. But we need to turn those into fractions first. So 1 1/2. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Oops. So this is really 3 over 2, plus 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So this is really 5 over 4, plus 3 over 4. Need to make them all be over 4. So we could do times 2 on that one. And now we have 6 over 4 plus 5 over 4 plus 3 over 4, which is really 6 plus 5 plus 3 all over 4. 6 plus 5 plus 3 is going to give us 14 over 4. We could simplify this. Divide it by 2, and you get 7 over 2. 2 goes into 7 3 times, because 2 times 3 is 6. And then we have 1 left over, so 3 1/2 quarts. That's how we're going to do that, right? So we took our mixed numbers, turned them into fractions, made them have the same denominator, combined them, simplified, turned it back into a mixed number. All right, that wraps up lesson 5-3, where we're looking at adding and subtracting fractions.